Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a text that's nearly 3,000 years old to uncover what is, honestly, a surprisingly modern playbook on the art of seduction and the psychology of temptation. So, let's just dive right in and see what it has to say.
So the big question is, how does a text this ancient give us such a sharp analysis of persuasion and desire? Well, we're going to treat this chapter not just as ancient scripture, but as this incredibly detailed psychological case study. It's really a step-by-step breakdown of a masterclass in manipulation.
Okay, so the story is basically broken down into 3 acts. Act 1 really sets the stage. You have a father giving his son this desperate warning, and he frames wisdom not as some abstract idea, but as a literal bodyguard against danger.
I mean, the opening line is just so direct. This isn't just some friendly advice he's giving. Right from the get-go, it's presented as a matter of life and death. The message is crystal clear. What you choose to listen to, what you internalize, is ultimately going to determine your fate.
And what's so fascinating here is how this abstract concept of wisdom gets translated into these really concrete physical actions. Guard it like the apple of your eye, your most precious, most vulnerable asset. Bind them on your fingers, write them on your heart. The whole idea is to make this wisdom a physical part of you, something that becomes instinct, not just a passing thought.
And this is where the central conflict really gets laid out for us. On one side, you have wisdom, and it's personified as this trusted family member, a sister. And on the other side, you have the adulterous woman, whose main weapon is her seductive words. So right away, it's a battle between a truth that's familiar and protective and a deception that's alluring and really, really dangerous.
All right, so let's get into Act 2 and see how this actually plays out. The father switches gears here. He stops just giving advice, and he starts telling a story, a cautionary tale that he says he saw from his own window.
And here he is. Here's our main character. But notice how he's described. He's not called evil or malicious. He's simple, a youth who had no sense. The key thing is that his fatal flaw isn't wickedness. It's just naivete. He's vulnerable precisely because he's missing that wisdom his father was just warning him about.
And the setting, man, it just ramps up the tension. He's wandering around her corner at twilight, right as the dark of night set in. He is absolutely in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that fading light, it kind of mirrors his own lack of judgment as the whole situation gets more and more dangerous.
And then she appears. Just look at this description. It is incredibly specific. She is not passive in this story. She has crafty intent, she's unruly, and she lurks. This was not a random encounter. She is an active predator, strategically positioned, just waiting for an opportunity.
And now we get to the absolute heart of the encounter, her primary weapon. The text calls it smooth talk, and we are about to witness a masterclass in psychological persuasion. It's broken down into 3 really distinct tactics.
So this is her opening line. She doesn't lead with anything direct or suggestive. No, she starts by talking about religion, about fulfilling her vows. Seems pretty harmless, doesn't it?
But it is a brilliant first move. What she's doing is putting on this spiritual disguise. It's all designed to disarm him, to make her seem completely safe and trustworthy. And you can just feel his guard immediately start to come down.
Okay, so once she's got him feeling comfortable, she moves on to the next step, logistics. She just casually drops into the conversation that her husband is gone. And not just for the night, he's on a long journey. He won't be back for a while.
And this is so clever because it's not just small talk. This is tactic number 2, removing the fear of consequences. She is systematically taking apart the single biggest barrier in his mind, the risk of getting caught. She's making the whole proposition sound safe, easy, and totally risk-free.
So with his defenses lowered and his fear pretty much gone, she moves in for the final push. And notice the language she uses. It is all about the senses, the smell of perfume on the bed, the promise of drinking deeply of love.
And here it is, the knockout punch. Tactic number 3, a direct sensory appeal. She's not trying to convince his logical brain anymore. She's bypassing it completely.
She paints this vivid picture of pleasure that's designed to just overwhelm any rational thought he might have left.
And yeah, her three-part strategy, it works perfectly. Which brings us to the final and really tragic act of the story, which reveals the true cost of this whole encounter.
The text is super clear about what happened. It was her persuasive words, her smooth talk that did all the work. And then, all at once, he followed her. The battle's over. The decision has been made.
And then the narrator just slams the point home with these incredibly powerful images. He thinks he's walking toward a night of pleasure, but he's compared to an ox going to be slaughtered, a deer stepping right into a noose, a bird darting straight into a snare. He is completely, totally oblivious to the mortal danger he's in.
And that's the tragedy of it, right? The massive gap between what he thinks is happening and what's really happening. He's focused on pleasure, little knowing, the text says, that the actual price tag for this encounter is his life.
So the father wraps up this tragic story with one final, chilling summary for his sons. And, by extension, it's really a warning for all of us.
This wasn't some isolated one-time tragedy. The father makes it clear that this young man was just the latest victim. Her slain are a mighty throng. Think about that phrase. It's this powerful image that suggests this path is well-traveled and it always, always ends in the same place.
And here it is, the final, brutal reframing of the whole situation. What she presented as this perfumed bed of love is revealed for what it really is, a highway to the grave. That seductive invitation was, in fact, a death sentence.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. This ancient story deconstructed a very personal kind of seduction. But today, we are surrounded by smooth talk all the time, from advertisers, from influencers, from algorithms, all of them making promises. So the question for us is, how do we get better at recognizing the persuasive words that promise us one thing, but might be leading us down a highway to a place we really don't want to go?